In today's panel discussion on the burgeoning cannabis industries in Europe versus North America, where the landscapes are rapidly evolving and in a cybernetic relations. As nearly half of US states embrace adult use legalization and medicinal cannabis continues to flourish, our attention now turns to Europe, Germany in particular, where the industry is still in its infancy, but brimming with potential. So, if you ever wondered what it takes for the US cannabis companies to conquer the European market, stick around for, as we discuss, the essential market entry requisites for navigating Europe's green frontiers. So today on the panel here, I have the pleasure to have Jamie Pearson, international market pioneer and founder of the New Holland Group. Jamie is a highly respected leader in the cannabis industry, known as the Wonder Woman for her operational success, leadership, and global relationships. She founded and leads New Holland Group, a consulting firm offering services ranging from international business development to financial turnarounds, and previously also served as president and CEO of Bank Inc. And expanding into multiple states and countries through licensing deals. So welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Then we have here Artur de Cordova, CEO and founder of Ziel. Artur is the CEO and founder. He's a leading provider of non-ionizing thermal solutions for microbiological pathogen reduction in agriculture and cannabis products. And he has extensive experience in regulated market and a background in pharmaceuticals, energy, finance, and other brings a global perspective for the cannabis industry, focusing on strategic direction and global partnerships for Ziel. And then last but not least, we have Kai Friedrich Niermann, a lawyer from Germany, from KFN Plus. He's a highly knowledgeable legal expert in the cannabis industry, offering comprehensive support for contract drafting to regulatory compliance. He operates internationally and navigating the evolving legal landscape. While he also has his blog cannabis.legal, and he's also an effective lobbyist and working with many associations in Germany and beyond. So Kai, let's start with you straight away. Cannabis is legalized in Germany and the industry is impatiently waiting for the final passing of the law. What is the status of legalization in Germany and what stage are we at? And what are some of the biggest roadblocks on a global and local level?
Yeah, we are not done yet. Don't think that. It's almost like a classical drama in 5 acts, and I will give you an overview of that. So the drama began in November 21. We had federal elections and a new government was in place, the Traffic Light Coalition, and they announced in November 21 that cannabis will be legalized and the distribution of cannabis in specialized stores, in dispensaries. That was the aim in November 21. Then the increasing moment came in October 22, and there was a paper published by the Federal Ministry of Health saying, okay, this is our plan to enroll a commercial route for cannabis distribution in Germany. Everyone said, oh yeah, Germany is really legalizing commercial route, great. And then the third act was in April 23. The Federal Minister of Health and the Federal Minister of Agriculture saying, okay, the commercial route doesn't work, we have legal problems, single convention, EU framework, etc. It's not possible. We have to do it the other way. And then they presented again a paper saying, okay, you are only allowed to possess 25 grams of cannabis. We are planning to introduce cannabis cultivation associations, no cannabis social clubs, so no consummation on the premises, but cannabis cultivation association for collective home grow. And the home grow of option for 3 plants at home. That was, of course, a big step back, and it was probably and completely over-regulated. So it was a big disappointment at that point of time. And then we saw the first draft in August last year, in 23. And it was so heavily restricted, so prohibitionist, a drama, nothing left over from the initial plans. Then the fourth act started by even these reduced plans were attacked from all sides, from police associations, from physician associations, etc. And it was not clear if this draft will enter Bundestag at all. Then the Ukraine war came, and the tax problems came, and it was scheduled for November. It was postponed, and then it was scheduled for December, postponed. For January, postponed. And then in February, 3 weeks ago, the law passed Bundestag. And now we are in the situation that the Bundesrat, the Federal Council, has to approve that law as well. He can't really prevent it, but he can appeal to a mediation committee. And if that is done, if they appeal next Friday for the mediation committee, the law can't enter into force at 1st of April. And when it will enter into force is completely open. And this would be the last act of this classical drama, the catastrophe, no change at all.
So you think 1st of April is off the table?
It's 50-50. It's 50-50. Many people are working on that right now. The resistance came from the federal states because they're saying, oh my God, we have to implement new administrative procedures and we have to look through old criminal files. Maybe we have to release some prisoners. Oh, we are completely overwhelmed. Please stop that law. This is the problem right now. Yeah.
But are the people overthinking, or is it realistic concern that they have at this moment for the changes that are outstanding?
I mean, the Green Party was always in favor of legalization. They brought the first bill in 2015 to Bundestag, the Cannabis Control Act. And now it seems that the ministers, the green ministers from the federal states are opposing just this law. It would be political suicide for the Green Party if it's, in the end, the fault of the Green Party if the law doesn't enter into force. So.
I agree. So, Jamie, with that in the back of your, or with the back of our minds, what advice would you give American brands who hire your group, the New Holland Group, for entering into Europe? What are some vital aspects that they have to consider?
When I worked at Bang, for those of you that know Bang Chocolate, I ran that company for 7 years, and one of the things I did was, when I started the company, we were in California. When I left, we were in 7 states, Canada, and I brought the CBD division into Europe. So my experience, sort of boots on the ground, is navigating the complexities of the legal market, whatever's happening legally. Things change on a dime. You have to be able to pivot quickly and know how to do things. For example, you don't want to buy 100,000 packages to get a cheaper rate, knowing that the government could, on a dime, change something, and then that whole batch of packaging becomes obsolete. So I put the legal framework more in the boots on the ground operational strategy. And what I would say to that, what Kai just explained, is that you've got a political football going back and forth. It's a seesaw. We don't know what's going to happen. Friday is D-Day. What I've been telling my clients is Germany is pharma, in the words of Sita Schubert, those of you who know her, full stop, pharma. So if you want to come in and be a brand, you're really early. There's no brands right now. And even in the social model, if it passes, brands aren't really a thing. However, if you're an American brand and you have credibility and people know you, because like everywhere, American cannabis is in high demand, especially cannabis from California. So if you have a brand with tremendous credibility, as we've witnessed with Cookies, that came over here and has been able to open stores, and I don't want to open that can of worms, but there is a path, and there's a path for doing B2C. So approaching your consumer directly rather than going the traditional B2B route. And then going the farmer route. So you want to make sure that you are building your brand through the traditional medical channels. Now, one thing I want to say, and then I'll let someone else speak here, but I think when you're talking about brands in Europe, you really just have to think about the European market compared to the North American market, which is what's the title of our panel. In America, medical, you have to put air quotes around it because it was really just a workaround so we could put the plant in people's hands. In Europe, medical actually means medical. It's a doctor prescription. It's sometimes health insurance. If you can jump through those hoops, you get the medicine at a pharmacy. You're not going to a dispensary. So all of you in Europe know that, but for my American compadres, especially the new ones that are here, medical cannabis in Europe looks nothing like medical cannabis in America. So I think that what we're seeing is that those medical laws will probably loosen and it'll be easier for people and patients to get their hands on cannabis, but it's probably not going to be anytime soon like what we see in the recreational states in the US.
Thank you. So Arthur, as an American company operating in the North American cannabis market for more than 8 years, how long ago did you begin to prepare to enter for the European market, and what steps did you take? And what were the most difficult challenges also coming here with an American perspective to Europe?
Thank you, Lisa. I come back to Europe with a view from my previous chapter when I lived in Europe and I was country manager of Astra, now AstraZeneca. And when I left Astra, I didn't think I was going to be going back into the pharma business. And so I returned back to the United States, acquired this company, Seal, and we were in the recreational market for all intents and purposes, as Jamie mentioned. Medical cannabis in the United States was really just a pathway to get to recreational. Here in Europe,
Microphone up higher. We need your microphone up by your mouth.
Okay. Here in Europe, it is, as Jamie said, very much of a pharmaceutical market. And so I look back to those days at Astra when we had reps detailing doctors, educating doctors, solving distribution problems for pharmacies. So we had to, go back to the old playbook. And so we entered the European market a few years ago. It's a GMP market, and our equipment is qualified for GMP certification. I was in a customer's facility yesterday in Portugal, and I can tell you there's not a single North American facility that looks like this facility I saw yesterday in Portugal. And then it is clean, GMP, the processes, it's professional, and so I think the pathway, as Jamie said, is very clear. It is pharma, it's going to stay pharma. Recreation is not on the horizon here. There's probably little room for brands in the traditional sense in the European market for years to come. But we're very excited, and I look forward to being back in the pharma business in Europe.
I will say Ozempic is a brand, and it's a pharma brand. So there is an ability to brand pharma, but we're so early. It's not time for that yet.
But do you see also many differences on how business is done here, in comparison to the States?
Difference about how business is done here.
The United States, it's a go-go market. I mean, you have legacy growers, you have institutional investors. Here, it's much more of a steadied, slow, organic growth. I don't think there's going to be seismic changes like you might see in the United States. And Chloe hit it this morning in the earlier panel, that we're all now waiting for the DEA to endorse or not endorse the rescheduling of cannabis from a narcotic. I'd say that the Germans may have beat us to the punch, but the jury's out till next Friday. But it's going to be very steadied growth. I don't see any hyperbolic growth that you saw in the United States, which is arguably a $30 billion market now. I don't have a hard number for Europe, but it is a fraction of that.
But we have Bitcoin, so we're all okay.
So Jamie, back to you, more also from a commercial strategy point of view. What has changed about your view of the European cannabis industry since the German and Dutch war, or maybe even since you started entering?
Yes, so I entered the European market in 2016. It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
In dog years, what does that make me, 100? And that market, we were so hopeful. And every year, it's kind of cannabis, you know, we always say, and then cannabis happened. You just get kicked in the teeth, you know, you think you're going to make big progress, and you really don't. And I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but what's changed for me is I realize I actually think the European cannabis market is doing it right in comparison with the American market, because we have so many problems with the illicit market. I don't believe that it should be a situation where you've got people in prison for this plant, and then what you do is you legalize it, but then you create a new set of criminals, quote unquote, which are the people that open or have illicit dispensaries. So in 2018, for example, in California, we had 3,000 dispensaries. It goes rec. There's only 300 legal dispensaries the next day. All 3,000 stayed open. Now you've got 2,700 new criminals. Instead of lowering the bar and letting the people that were operating, you know, enter the legal market. And I am hoping that in Europe, which has a robust illicit market, everybody uses cannabis, that there's a pathway to not create new criminals. And I think that part of the delays, thank you. I think part of the delays are about the lawmakers are not jockeying us versus them, which is the problem we have in the US. It's Democrats versus Republicans. Well, if they do the bill, then we're not going to approve it and all that kind of stuff. Here, it's very thoughtful. You've got a parliamentary process. You've got coalitions that are all putting their stakeholders and their policies in place and bringing the concerns that they have to the table. And I think one of the big concerns is criminal justice. And I think part of that is what is causing some of this delay. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that there is EU GMP, so the medicine is coming out of clean facilities, because I can tell you I have toured probably near 1,000 grows in my life, and some of the best ones are here in Europe for sure. So I think the Europeans might not be getting it right all the way, but I think they're getting a lot of it right.
Maybe just out of the regular question here, Kai, can you give a little comment on social justice in Germany and how this is developing and this discussion is developing, and with amnesty?
Social justice, yeah, that is exactly the point where these ministers from the federal states are complaining, because they would have to go through 100,000 cases to see if they have to be eradicated, these convictions. And we have too little staff. We can't do that. Let's skip that. And then we will consent to the bill. That's so much to social justice awareness of politicians in Germany.
Thank you. So, Arthur, like in Germany, we have talked about that market. We have roughly something between 20 to 30 tons of medicinal cannabis flower imports in 2023 so far reported. In some individual states in the US, you have hundreds of tons alone. So, is Europe even on the radar of American companies?
So, I'm going to give an example of just one state, and this is really the opportunity that Europe has. I'm going to use scale. So if Germany last year was 30 tons approximately of flour, most of it imported, one state, Michigan, consumed 160 tons of flour, one state. So you amplify that, and if you want to use that as a benchmark to what the European market could look like, you know, greater population, the opportunity is enormous. Even if it just stays medical, the opportunity is enormous. So we're all here in the early days, and all that groundwork's being done on the regulatory front. Germany leading the way. But I think it's going to be very interesting with the European Parliament elections coming up, what the European Parliament does. And I'm going to ask our German colleagues a return question. How do you see the European Parliament, how that's playing out in the European Parliament, not just in Germany?
On a European level, that's a good question, but it's like, I don't know, we all don't have a glass bubble that we can look into. That's a little bit the problem. But hopefully, and I hope many of you are also working on that within the countries, that we come together and that we really lobby as a European industry, because that is something that we have been missing. In Germany, we had our first industry association in 2019, and the thing that we all need to do more, and also more jointly, is to really lobby on a European level, especially with the European elections coming up soon.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, it's fine. We just continue with the questions here because we're like also. We have an echo. Yeah, we have an echo up here. Like sometimes we like, yeah. Kai, we have the rescheduling or the re-evaluation of the laws in Germany. This does not only have impact on the recreational part, but also on the medical part and on the hemp sector. What do you expect for the future of these areas? And also in regard to global development and the upcoming European election?
Yeah, sure. So once again, if the law, if they appeal to the mediation committee next week, the law won't pass at the 1st of April. When it will pass then is completely unclear. It maybe fails at all. But if it enters into force at the 1st of April, cannabis will be rescheduled and not part of the Narcotic Act anymore. It will be a regular commodity, highly regulated though, but a regular commodity. That's one advantage, of course. And as a regular commodity, as a regular medicine, you don't need a narcotic prescription anymore. You don't have to obey these safety regulations anymore, lesser documentation obligations, etc. So that would be a big advantage. And it would easy the access for medical patients as well in Germany, because then the stigma is gone and you can prescribe cannabis for back pain, basically. It's no problem then anymore. And the medical import companies, of course, they hope for this boost, and the patients' numbers will rise by that.
I just want to add, the German law will benefit the patients, more prescribing doctors in Germany. The change, the rescheduling, if the rescheduling occurs in the United States, it will have very little impact on patients. It'll have a huge impact on the growers because of the tax implications. 280E, it's an arcane IRS rule, but we'll be able to depreciate. But that rescheduling plays out differently in the two markets.
Thank you for that addition. Maybe
can I add something? And the most surprising development showed up in November as they published their amendments to the law, which is now coming into force, is that all restrictions on medical cannabis cultivation will be lifted. So everyone who wants to produce, who wants to cultivate cannabis, medical cannabis, according to pharmaceutical grade, can do so. We have 3 domestic licenses already in place by Demica and Aurora and Tilray, and they are only allowed to produce 10 tons in 4 years, lifted. They are only allowed to produce 3 strains, lifted. And every company, there's no restrictions on the number of companies, so if you want to grow medical cannabis in Germany, you can do that with the new law. Then you have to think of the Single Convention of Article 21, which is basically saying the more you produce domestically, the less you can import. So this has the potential to change the whole scene. And in the mid to long run, you probably will have to produce cannabis, medical cannabis in Germany if you want to distribute it in Germany. So you take a close look on that, how that will unfold, very important.
Okay, thank you. So the final question to all of you panelists, maybe starting with you, Jamie. What will be the biggest surprise in Europe in the next 12 months?
Well, it won't be a surprise to me, but I think what will be surprising to the government is that the efforts to decriminalize, the lifting of the limits, is going to create an environment where cannabis is ubiquitous. and it's going to be very difficult for the police to start enforcing, and I think what you're going to have is a free-for-all, and they're going to underestimate the entrepreneurial spirit around cannabis, and so you're going to have, I think, an illicit market explode that they're going to have a very difficult time controlling, because if you're a police officer in Spain, for example, because there's no borders, you go over to Germany, you buy something that's adult use, you bring it over, it's decriminalized here, you can have it. It's going to be mayhem, it's going to be chaos. That's what I predict.
I agree.
I'm going to go with the short term and see what happens a week from tomorrow in Germany. Not 12 months, because I think what happens in Germany is a bellwether for the EU Parliament and the tone. It's going to have implications for Spain, as Carla mentioned in the earlier panel, and it's going to provide, if it passes, political cover for politicians, or in the United States, if the DEA passes it, it'll give political cover then for our politicians, our dysfunctional political government in the United States, to possibly change the tone in Washington.
They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. They're not going to change their tone.
Yeah, but that's something very critical that I think is we are heading in that direction where we have all different countries all finding different regulations. It's no harmonized market, many bottlenecks, and that's something we as an industry also need to try to avoid and create more harmonized regulations across Europe and not only for individual countries. Kai, what's your biggest surprise?
Next Friday? No, there will be a lot of surprises coming up over the year, I guess, as it has been the last 2 years, as we try to legalize or decriminalize or whatever cannabis in Germany. But as it seems, there is developing a sort of European standard for legalization. If you look at Malta, if you look at Luxembourg, if you look at Germany, and the Czech Republic announced something similar. So this cannabis cultivation model with 500 members maximum and this 3 plant at home seems to develop to a European standard, which a member state can easily adopt and apply without getting into conflict with the EU Commission. And we will see that with Czech Republic as well, probably. And then we will have the EU elections for the EU Parliament in summertime in June. And there are already working groups of MPs in the European Parliament working on cannabis reform on a European level. The EU framework decision from 2004, we know that the Schengen Acquis, all having regulations on cannabis in place, which makes the legalization so difficult right now. I think if the new parliament comes in after the summer break, we may see some surprises there and some initiatives to reform this legal framework on the EU level. I'm pretty sure that will happen.
Do you think some of those surprises will be positive?
Yeah, because the framework decision from 2004 is under the old legal framework of the EU, of the Nizza framework, and it's politically not really legitimate. It wasn't decided by the parliament. It was an off-record decision, so to say, and it's not viable for preventing legalization anymore. But it's in place, so you have to deal with that. And if you change that, you can go further than cannabis cultivation associations and decriminalization. You can then think of the commercial route and all the tools which are in place on the single convention level with inter-se agreements, etc.
Well, I think the other big surprise that we know is coming is these pilot programs. We don't know what that's going to look like necessarily, but we know with some certainty who the players are going to be that are going to come in with money.
Yeah, but those discussions are just starting, so...
Yeah, the pilot projects, of course, yeah, they announced that they will, if the law passes next week, they will immediately start working on the pilot projects. For the pilot projects, you have to cultivate cannabis as well in Germany. So it's maybe not a bad idea to start a cannabis cultivation in Germany to be prepared for Model B, for the model projects, and for the next steps 5, 6, 7 years ahead.
Yeah, maybe just as a little comment to the audience also, like the Pillar 2 is for evaluating the commercial part. So you can already do now scientific research and research in those kind of areas, so that's also something that should be done way more. But we're going to open the floor for questions now. Maybe, Micha, your main surprise of the next 12 months, what is yours?
I also have to wait till next Friday, I would say. And another surprise is what Jamie just mentioned. There will be no legal supply or legal possession in the beginning. And what we never discussed so far is that pharmacies, they don't pay taxes. They pay taxes, but they pay less taxes. And if you look at the pricing right now, and this is also my first question that may go out to Kai maybe. When I look at the pricing of pharmacy right now, do you think they will be like in competition? Because it's also in competition with shops and clubs, because it's also, as we heard, very easy to have a prescription very soon. All the restrictions fall. And when I look at the pricing in pharmacy, it starts at $5.50 right now, and it's becoming cheaper. Do you think they'll be in competition with the clubs and the shops which will come?
Yeah. If I would be allowed to have a proper home grow, I probably wouldn't take prescriptions anymore. You know that. It's a huge potential for home grow in Germany. In every municipality, in every county, you have at least 3 head shops selling stuff and accessories for the last 3/4 centuries. So it's already there, and it will boom, definitely, if you can do it legally. Many people will try that. But if you look at the demand, we were talking about that with Bo last night. The HOCAP study assumes 400 to 600 tons. Bo Whitney says, no, it's 900 tons, probably 1,000 tons. So if you really go, if the usual stoner transforms or switches to the medical market, there's enough potential for everyone. So no real competition, I guess.
I'm Graça Castanho, the founder of Canna Portugal. It's an expo on hemp and cannabis in Lisbon. And I have a question to Neerman, because you told a couple of times that the new laws of Germany implies this protection of your own market. And my question is, and considering that most of the, or a lot of the product that is medicinal cannabis that is produced in Portugal goes to Germany, how come in this European Union free circulation of goods, how come Germany can close its borders and protect themselves? Because I think it's the opposite idea that we have of the European Union.
That's a very good question, very good point. It's not solved yet because there are 2 different regimes. We have the EU law and we have the Single Convention. And medical cannabis is traded according to the rules of the Single Convention. And these are overlying or superseding the principle of the free movement of goods. This is a conflict, and maybe if someone starts to appeal against these rules, maybe he will be successful if you take it to court. It's a good question. We have to see.
I'm going to translate that for the Americans in the audience. What you basically have is the same situation here that we have there. It's federally illegal by EU standards. So if the member states, if Germany as a member state of the EU passes the law for the benefit of its citizens, they can grow, they can do whatever they want within the borders of Germany. That where the law gets broken is when it's crossing borders. When the EU law is broken is when it's crossing borders. So you have this conflict between the oversight of the feds, the EU, and what's going on at the state level or the member state level. And so
it's not a freely tradable commodity, medical cannabis. It's highly regulated. It's according to the Single Convention, and you have to comply with the Single Convention rules first.
There was another question back there.
Yes, hi, Jason Showard, founder of Pack Global and Modern Extractor. I've got a bit of a two-tiered question for Kai. From everything I've read regarding medical cannabis and the new changing of the cannabis laws in Germany, it seems like it's really opening the doors for flower. But beyond that, what are the options for creating consumer packaged goods, finished products, vapes, and any of that kind of stuff? And then also, how do you fulfill? Is it going to be possible to fulfill that from within the EU and outside of Germany eventually, in your opinion?
You have to comply with the monographies in place, which is for dried flowers and for extract. And if your products comply with these monographs, you are fine. You can sell it. But we won't see medical vaping devices. They are not there yet. No one has an authorization yet for the European market, but companies are working on that. So yeah, and we would need to have more and new and modern monographies for new products, which would have to be drafted, and the industry should take care of that.
What I predict is that you'll see kind of like the social club model here, which I know they're not the same, but what happened is cannabis is not legal here, but you have these quote-unquote private clubs, and they're not supposed to be selling cannabis, but they all do, because it becomes an enforcement issue, and Kai's talking about the government's already complaining, oh, we've got to go through 100,000, They aren't going to fund enforcement. That's the general rule of what happens, is the law gets passed, and then they don't consider, or they don't think about, we're gonna need to actually put some money in budgets for enforcement. So then you're just gonna have people flouting the law, which means then you're gonna have people putting the flower in branded packages, and it's not going to be allowed, but they're going to do it anyway. That's my prediction.
Maybe Kai, you can tell a little bit about the products available in the social clubs and in the Pillar 2.
In the social clubs, it's only flowers and resin, no extracts.
Solventless extracts.
Sorry?
Solventless extracts.
Solventless extract. Yeah, they are forbidden. And no edibles, of course, but live rosin. So if it's with pressure and no solvent, it's okay. And in the model project, they will try to that the edibles will be possible under strict evaluation if that is really as harmful as they expect to be it. Now it is not, but edibles will come then.
Yeah. So in the second pillar, there is some potential for more commercial products because that's the focus of the pillar. Yeah. So our time is over. Let's give a warm applause to the panelists. Thank you, everybody, for attending this panel.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.